Okay, so we're going to create some simple shapes to show 1-point perspective in Lightwave. So we're going to start off in Lightwave Modeler. That's this one, the orange one. And we're going to create the floor. So basic layout of Lightwave, it opens up with these 4 windows, so these 4 views. So we have the top view, the back view, the right view, and the perspective. And you'll see what that all means as we get going. So we're going to come up to this top tab bar, go to create, and these primitives are the shapes we're going to use, and we're going to start with a box to make the floor. So I'm going to start in this top view, and I'm just going to drag out a box. Now you can see you can move it with the crosshairs. So I'm going to move it into the center, and then you can take these little orange lines and make it shorter, longer, whatever you want. Now you can see in the back view it's flat. So what we want to do is just click and drag and pull it up and give it some size. So up here in this perspective view, and make sure that the texture is on from the drop down and that it's in the perspective view. These are your little controls here. So see these sort of curved arrows? You just click and you can view all around. Wow, it's really cool. So obviously that doesn't look like a floor yet. So we're going to come here to the right view and drag it out. And I like having the perspective open because you can really see what's happening. So now that's looking more like a floor. Something that happens when people start out in Lightwave that can be really annoying is you like click over here and your thing is gone and you press Control-Z and you can't get it back. And that's really annoying. So what you want to just be aware of that, I'm going to draw this guy again. And when you're done creating your shape, you have to sort of get out of the tool. So you have to like release yourself from that tool. So there's a couple ways to do that. The first, simplest way is, I'm just going to get this in the middle to satisfy my OCD. There we go. So simplest way to get out of the tool and kind of lock the shape in is to click the box tool again. Another way to do it is to press the space bar to release yourself from that tool. Now, when you go and press the box tool again, it's going to draw a whole separate shape. So, and you won't be able to edit this one in the same way. You won't have the same editing options. You'll have other editing options, but not the same ones you had to begin with. So just be aware of that. I'm going to click out of here and that guy's gone. Okay, so now if I wanted to select it again, I'm like making these other boxes because I'm in the box tool and it's not working and I'm getting frustrated because I want to select the one I already have. So we come down here to the polygon selection. So you can see it down here. And you click on any part of it, click and drag, and then you use the right bracket key. And this is in the sample notebook and should definitely be something you put in your notes. Go into the modify move tool, and that's T on your keyboard, and you can move it around. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to change the color, and that is Q on the keyboard. So you get this change surface. Really important thing to remember is that you have to name all of your surfaces. So I'm going to call it floor. And for now, if you want to change the color of one of your objects, you're just going to have to create a new name, like name it floor 1. We're going to check smoothing, and we click right here to get our color picker. I want to make it kind of like a wood-like tone, but you can make yours whatever you want. Press OK, and OK. And there you have your floor. So now I am going to deselect this, get out of it, and we're going to create the other objects on here. So to deselect, the spacebar key, then the question mark key. So the spacebar key gets you out of the tool, then the question mark key deselects. And now I'm going to make some more of these primitives. So create primitive. I'm going to make another box, like, so let's say it's like a tower. So I'm going to come here, think about how my tower is, and then I'm coming to the top view. And I'm going to zoom out because I can't really see what's going on where it's placed. over here. So you come up to the zoom and you do a left click and you just drag to the left. And now I can move it around, get it where I want. So I'm thinking this will be like a tall tower. And I always come into the perspective and kind of check out how that's going. See how that looks. And now I want to make it a different color. So I am going to press the spacebar tool to get out of it. I'm gonna click on one of the polygons, click the right bracket, then hit Q, and I'm gonna name it tall, not equals, tower. I'm going to select a color. Maybe I'll make it a bluish. And again, you're gonna make yours whatever color you want. All right, and then I'm gonna spacebar to get out of there. So let's try making a cone as well. So for the cone, this matters where you start drawing your shape. So let's see, if I start drawing it here, and then I pull out the cone and it's going that way, I don't like it like that. So I'm just gonna click out of it. I wanna start here. That doesn't look so good either. So what I have to do with the cone, and every tool has its own thing going on, this is where I want to start it from. So you can make them as big as you want. You know, I'm kind of thinking it's like this futuristic cityscape with really simply shaped buildings. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. And then I'm gonna make it the space bar to get out of there. I'm gonna select, now with the cone you can see, make sure I'm in the polygon selection. If something else is selected when you get into that polygon selection tool, you just hit the question mark to get out of it. Now the cone has a lot of polygons. All the objects in here are made up of polygons. So you just have to select one and then hit the right bracket key, and then you've had them all selected. That's why that key command is super important. So I'm hitting Q, naming this cone. I am going to make a purple cone, press OK. And then you just keep on building your shapes. Try the ball as well. And you could be like a Epcot center ball, or maybe in your vision of this future world, there's just a ball floating around. That's up to you, however you imagine it. And on this side, you can kind of decide how high up it is off of the ground. And then hit spacebar, question mark, select with the polygon selection, hit the right bracket to get the whole thing, Q, call this ball, remember you're renaming every time, and maybe I'll make it green. I really like that color. Maybe I'll make it that color. Okay. All right. And then on one side, I'm gonna make like a wall on this side with the disk tool. So let's get out of the selection, the spacebar, come to the disk tool, and I'm gonna start here from the top view, just so you can see what all these different tools do as well. That's another reason for this project, so you can kind of start to play around with these primitives, see how you will be starting a lot of your shapes moving forward in the program. So this one I want sitting really in the floor, and you can see how it's cutting through, which is kind of cool, so you can start to see how the program really works. And you can make it a different color, spacebar, polygon selection, question mark to delete that, and I'm just selecting the disk that we just made, hitting the right bracket, hitting the letter Q on the keyboard, call it the wall, and make it Press OK. All right, I'm going to add another box in here just to give some more shape so you can see what happens when we move it into layout. Okay, let's press spacebar and question mark to deselect everything. In the polygon selection, I'm going to select the new box that I just made, hit the right bracket tool to make sure the whole thing's selected, Q, cube, and I'll make it this color. Okay, so now you have simple shapes. Obviously, you can spend a lot longer making yours very nice and picking all your colors and stuff, but this is the simple shapes we're starting with. Okay, so we're going to save, so make sure you save it. And I like to name them model, just in Modeler when I'm making something. It does have a different, extension, but it's just easier for me for some reason. You don't have to do that, but that's just something I'm in the habit of doing. So I'm calling this 1-point model. And then up here, this little arrow all the way over here, we can send object to layout. Sometimes this doesn't work. It goes through the hub of Lightwave, and if that's not working for you, you can just come into layout, and if you had something else open in layout, you'd have to clear the scene first and then open scene, and you would find your model. Okay, let me make this bigger so we can see what's going on. Okay, so this is where in layout where we're going to make it look like a 1-point perspective. So we're going to adjust the camera and the lights. So you can click on the camera here and move it around with your mouse. You can click on the lights. It always starts with one light and one camera, and move that around. And you're going to spend a lot of time adjusting those. And later on, we'll add more lights and more cameras and stuff. But right now we're just starting. It has to have one camera and one light to exist. So we're going to come up to this top toolbar here, and we're going to go to the current camera view. So camera view, current camera. And we're going to we're in cameras here, and we're going to use our mouse to click around. So if for some reason yours isn't moving, make sure you're in modify, move, and that's the T tool. So the left click is backwards and forwards. If you go kind of up and down, and side to side, if you move your mouse side to side while you're holding the left click, and you can just click down and move it all around. And then the right click is up and down like that. Ooh, it's pretty awesome. So get yours really set up so it looks like a 1-point perspective, and make it, dramatic. So you can see the lines going back into perspective. We really want to see the perspective of it. So you will spend more time getting yours looking good. And it's hard not to spend a lot of time doing it. Okay, so that's the camera setup. Then we have the light situation. So to move the lights, you can click on lights in the bottom toolbar, or you can click on the icon here. And same thing, you're in the move tool and you're moving it all around, and the left click and right click do the same thing. You can grab these. But an important thing in the lights is rotate. So this is where you really can set it up. So an important thing for this project is just make sure you have it set up so nothing is totally black. Like, it's okay if there's some weird shadows going on, but as long as I can see two sides, and right here this cube is very much showing us the 1-point perspective, how it's going back into space. I didn't do a good job designing the model because the thing in the back is lost, so on yours, so you're going to spend more time making it look great. So the light, if your light is looking weird and not looking like this, I'm just going to come into light properties and make sure it's a distant light. If it's not looking the same as mine, that could be why. Okay, we're gonna come into the camera properties. This is really important thing to get in the habit of. So cameras down here, properties, and we wanna change the resolution. So this is something when you get into layout, you should just always be in the habit of. You're gonna do HGTV, the 1080p. You can do 720, a lower resolution, if you're working on your home computer and you don't have a lot of space, that's fine, but it does need to be one of these two HGTVs. So just get in the habit of that. And then another thing you probably want to get in the habit of for right now is render properties. If you come to this global illumination, I just always uncheck enable GI for this kind of simple thing, because it helps with some of the noise, like the speckling in the final render. So if you do have a lot of speckling in your render and it's driving you crazy, I'm not going to take off points for that this time. You just come here in render properties and uncheck enable GI. Okay, so we are going to render this, and that's what will be your final project, you know, what you're gonna submit. So you come here, you're in the render tab, and we go to render frame, and this pop-up is gonna happen, and you can see it's rendering. And you just let it work, and then you hit abort, and you have this other pop-up. It's kind of big on my computer. So you can see this is what the final will look like. So I'm going to come to File, Save RGBA, and we're going to make it a PNG 24. So this is going to be your final project that you're going to save in the project submissions for this project in the M drive. And this is how I'm going to grade. So if it's not there, it's late. So make sure you name it the way I say in Canvas, which I think that's it. But it says in Canvas exactly how to do it. So your first name, last initial, project one, make sure it's in the right folder. We'll talk about all this stuff in class. But just make sure you get that all together, and then just hit save, and then go into the M drive and make sure it's there, and that's it. All right, have fun.